Hello, hello. Today we've got a very special day, because we're going to be watching the infamous croco-mom theory. I'm gonna be honest, going into this, I don't exactly have my hopes high that I'm going to be convinced. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I want to go in with an open mind, you know, just in case there is a lot of very concrete evidence. And then maybe, who knows, maybe we already have it figured out, right? I'm not convinced though. A video by Ohara called "We Already Know That Crocodile is Luffy's Mother." Now, I highly doubt this. I'm gonna say that right from the get-go. I highly doubt this. But let's see the evidence. Let's see what we have prepared.
Croco-mom, the theory that should not be anything else but a bunch of people trolling One Piece fans.
Exactly. Let's see.
I mean, come on. Crocodile used to be a woman that had a kid with Dragon, and that kid is Luffy, the protagonist that got impaled by said crocodile. Yeah, no, this is totally a thing. What's up? I'm Manu, and in case you aren't familiar with it yet, here's the pitch you will usually hear from people who support this theory. The idea that Crocodile might be female
Hope you're having a great time too.
Together with the release of the chapter back in 2009. Well, the idea that he might...
The chapters from Impel Down released in 2009?
be Luffy's mother seems to be from sometime in 2011. Although the original post that is referenced a lot over the internet does not exist anymore for some reason. Basically, the idea is based on a single interaction during the Impel Down arc. A single line of dialogue between Ivankov, one of the leading members of the Revolutionary Army, and Sir Crocodile, the former warlord that terrorized Alabasta and who was ultimately taken down by Luffy. In this scene here, Ivankov basically blackmails Crocodile into helping them by threatening to reveal his weakness. I just saw, hold on, I need to get rid of the chat. I just noticed that it's actually on top of the thing. I remember when this came out and I actually came to the conclusions to this theory myself. We'll see. I want to go in with an open mind, right? I'm open to all theories. I like watching these theories, honestly. If I knew that some people weren't like super against it, like watching videos on stream and stuff, I would love to watch all One Piece theories. I love thinking about these sorts of things. I really enjoy talking about Mark's big video too. A secret debt that Crocodile owes to Ivankov for something he was given, as Oda confirms later on Crocodile's Weaver cards. Yeah, so I remember this scene very well. And since Ivankov's most unique power has been specifically shown to be changing people's bodies as far as switching genders, the theory is that Crocodile used to be a woman. Luffy's mom, to be precise. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right here. Because the fact that Crocodile could have potentially been a woman, that I 100% buy. I feel like that is entirely possible. Alright? The fact that he's Luffy's mother, or they, I do not buy at all, okay? Let me get that straight. That's where I stand right now. Then was turned into a man by Ivankov. And boy, did I have a very emotional roller coaster-like personal journey with this theory. Basically, ever since this theory was first brought to my attention years ago, it hasn't gone away ever since. It has not. Ever. And so I practically went through all 5 stages of grief here. First, denial. When I first heard about this idea, I think this is where I'm at. Basically, this isn't real. Someone's definitely trolling these poor people. Then, anger. Once I realized that people were taking this seriously and actually talking about whether it was possible or not, I was genuinely pissed that people were debating this seriously when there were so many other great things to talk about with One Piece. This is so true. This is so true. Even in my Impel Down videos, when I brought it up, because obviously people had mentioned it beforehand, right? That, oh, we already know who Luffy's mother is. Even I was like, is this seriously what we're going to talk about? Is this the hill people want to die on? That Crocodile is Luffy's mom? I mean, there's so much more, but all right. No, how about this 30-minute ecstatic rambling session about where the One Piece is? Stage 3, bargaining. This is when I basically started to try and debate people who believed in this theory and try to explain to them why it was a stupid idea and why they were wrong. So wrong. I guess I don't have to tell you that those attempts mostly
Yeah.
failed. So I entered stage 4, depression. Actually quite recently. I just didn't want to talk about the croco-mom theory anymore at all. I thought there were so much more interesting ideas out there that deserved so much more attention, and so I just tried to push the idea out.
The thing with this theory that I feel like might bother him as well is that there's plenty you can talk about it, but it's kind of hard to disprove, right? It's sort of the people like to take theories like this is so good it must be true, right? But then sort of people need to disprove it. But the thing with this theory is that it's sort of hard to debunk. There's a lot of evidence in support of it, I assume, is what we're going to hear. But there's nothing really, there's not like a silver bullet, right? Maybe there is. Let's see.
However, everything changed a couple of weeks ago when I started working on my most recent video on Luffy's
Is that
mom.
Bonnie?
I had basically found out that mothers, or to be precise, their complete and utter absence from One Piece, plays an incredibly important and central role to the story. And of course, I also wanted to discuss a couple of ideas for who Luffy's mom could possibly be. And do you know that feeling when you turn around and suddenly someone is just standing there? That was exactly what it felt like when the croco-mom theory jumped right at me once I started to work on this, laughing in my face.
I'm still not
and
convinced.
At that point, I had enough of this. No more hiding. It was time to switch gears completely and go into the offensive. I decided to take this stupid theory, dismantle it to its core, and prove to the world once and for all that there was no way
I'm guessing
that
it failed.
Crocodile is Luffy's mom. And so after sleepless nights of vigorous work, I finally managed to find the answer to this mystery that had tormented me for years. Yeah, Crocodile is Luffy's mom. So it looks like I've ended up in stage 5 now. Acceptance. But allow me to guide you through my thought process here and what I actually found. Because as it turns out, there is a lot more evidence in the story to support this theory than I originally could have ever anticipated. I'm really curious and not sure if the person who first came up with this idea had difficulties expressing how good his theory actually was, or if it was just...
This is honestly, like, it's probably like a throwaway line, but this is probably something that actually happens a lot. And I feel like this has actually happened with me as well, right? That I sort of have trouble expressing exactly what I mean, right? The idea might be there, but it's just putting it into words and sort of justifying why you think something. That's a problem with theories. And I find that happens both ways, right? Where people have a very good theory and it's sort of, it never catches on because they just can't really explain it. But I feel like it also happens in the complete opposite way, where somebody can have a terrible idea that people latch onto just one idea from it, right? And it's not like the theory as a whole, but they latch onto the, like, one detail that seems cool. But I digress. That's just something that happens with, like, videos and talking about things a lot.
Sheer accident. To be honest, a lot of the follow-up theories for croco-mom have been pretty damn bad. However, I have distilled the best parts of everything I could find and then added in my own thoughts to this as well.
So cherry picking, you say?
I want to start with the idea that Crocodile is a woman and then move on to him being Luffy's mom, because let's be real, those two are very different.
Dragon is Luffy's mother and Crocodile is the father?
Apparently, I'm now a part of. Oh, and also, please, just ignore my use of pronouns in this video, please.
I can see how that...
Best, but it's probably gonna be a mess. We've already talked about the most fundamental thing to this entire theory. With Ivankov, there is actually a power in One Piece that is able to change genders, which is how the entire theory started in the first place.
Yes, that opens the doors for a lot of things in terms of characters.
The fact that this was all shown so
that's usually limited to fanfiction.
Crocodile definitely helps the credibility of these two being connected. Plus, Ivankov keeps calling him Croco Boy in what I think is a bit of a mocking way. Now, it could just be that Ivankov wants to take away from his manliness, but maybe it's also supposed to put more attention on exactly that aspect of his character. Now, one thing that I think is important to consider is Oda's
I don't think that's like, because didn't Ivankov also say, wasn't it the same thing with Bon Clay? I don't remember. Do you listen to One Piece D&D by Rustage? No, I do not. No, I do not. I used to listen to a lot of D&D podcasts, but they take up a lot of time, right? I mean, that's sort of the design of D&D.
Inspiration for the warlords here. Not only do all of the original Shichibukai have an animal theme, but the group as a whole was inspired by the video game Romancing Saga 2 that was released in Japan back in 1993, which is older than I am. Wow.
That's much older than I am, but okay.
Shares the characteristics with one of the heroes of this game. For example, there's Rokubuke, I think is how you pronounce that. The only female of the 7 who controls all the men in the jungle villages with her charm, which then of course became Boa Hancock.
Okay.
Or Bokuon, a puppeteer demon who rules over his own little realm with his own slaves, and whose special technique, marionettes, allows him to manipulate all
So that's Dofi.
which of course is the inspiration for Buggy.
What? Oh. That caught me off guard. Okay. That's cool.
The character that is important for us here is called Wagnas, who has enslaved an entire country and wants to find an ancient weapon to control the world. Now, what is really interesting about Wagnas is that while he is male, everything about him looks and feels female. Now, the fastest way to disprove the idea that Crocodile is female would be by looking at his past, clearly showing him to be a guy. And we actually do have 2 instances.
Number 1. The fact that they're inspired by characters and they just so happen to have like their genders match, that is not really something like super strong in arguments in my opinion. Like, they are inspired by, that's like the whole premise in my eyes, right? So, yes, they might align in this case, but, I don't know.
Of Crocodile
I don't know.
before the current timeline. One of them is this sketch made by Oda of all the warlords as children. In case you're wondering, Crocodile is here, a kid who might be either a boy or a girl and resembles Hancock most of all the others. The second time is during Roger's execution.
I mean,
however, Crocodile...
I feel like that's just a thing with drawing kid characters and manga in general. The same thing happens in The Walking Dead. A lot of people that are not who are not familiar with the comics, they just say that like every single woman in the comic looks like extremely similar, because usually they're just distinguished by their facial features, right? Because you can have different colored hair and stuff. So that's a comment I've received a lot, that a lot of characters look extremely alike, especially like women who have just like a ponytail or something like that, because you can really like distinguish them a lot when you have close-ups. So I don't know. I don't know. I love that the world in One Piece is so silly that it wouldn't be surprising me if it were true. I mean, the thing is, now we have to talk about the chicken and the egg problem. Because if it turns out to be true, was it always the plan? Or is it Oda embracing the chaos? Right? Because at this point, if it ever turns out to be true, people are obviously going to say that yes, it was planned all along. But we're never going to know about that. It could easily be Oda just choosing to make it true now that people have talked about it for so long, right?
Is only shown from behind here. What we can see is a fur coat, long purple hair, an earring, and a cigar, both in the anime and the manga. And since Oda has already done us the favor and drawn the opposite sex of each of the 7 warlords, we can say that this panel of Crocodile from behind would fit with either the male or the female version of him. And as you know, Oda sometimes like to hide and hint at things in the color spreads and cover pages. And as it happens, this is the official cover and title of chapter 938. Now,
what happens in chapter 938 though?
Because it definitely did to me, is that everything surrounding Crocodile is weirdly connected to gender ideas. All the code names of his agents are Mr. and Mrs. His name isn't just Desert King Crocodile, no, it's Desert King Sir Crocodile, like Oda going... Oh, yeah, in case you haven't realized, that this man is really manly, by the way. No, really, he's a Sir and a Mr. Zero, Crocoboy. I was actually considering calling him Sir Testosterone. That's how manly he is. And then there was the introduction of Mr. 2 Bon Clay. One of
also known as the best character in One Piece.
my favorite characters, by the way.
Yes.
I feel like that dude actually deserves an entire video of his own.
Yes, he does. Lady Crocodile sounds not as good, I think. It's just not. It just sounds wacky because we've never heard of it. I'd be fully on board.
Is just a pure treasure trove of hints. This
okay,
man
let's
of
see.
Mans has someone in his strictly gendered organization who plays both the male and female part of his double agent theme. He's Mr. 2, a number, and also Mrs. Bon Clay, 2 festival holidays in Japan. Not only is Bon Clay the first of the discriminated Okama introduced in the story that Crocodile seems to tolerate and integrate just fine into his plans,
because he's a legend.
He also has the ability to change faces from man to woman to man, becoming someone completely different every time. Now, if this isn't hinting at something, but there's even more to this.
Okay.
Bon Clay, as one of the Okama, comes from Okama Island, an island that not only gives us a connection between Ivankov and Crocodile, but more importantly between Crocodile and Dragon. Most of the Okama are part of the Revolutionary Army, whose leader is none other than Dragon, Luffy's father. So, all of this so far has mostly served as my argument that Crocodile
Whitebeard is also connected to,
which actually has surprisingly much support in large parts of the fandom. However, and I totally understand why, saying that Crocodile was a woman and that Crocodile is Luffy's
yes, this is my biggest problem.
Two very
this is my biggest problem, because saying that he might have been a woman before, okay, sure, why not, right? Who cares? But the fact that we automatically link that to be Luffy's mother, number one, I think it's sort of a pointless argument as is, right? Because the fact that Luffy's mother has never been revealed to us and clearly was never present, I feel like that alone says enough, right? That we shouldn't really care about her, if that makes sense, right? Luffy became who he is even without her, right? So introducing her now would just be, I don't know. I've never really thought it was necessary, but okay, let's keep going.
More like a cup of tea and a cup of coffee. And still,
yes,
I believe that both of these things are true. Here's why. By the way, in case you're enjoying theories like these and want to delve deeper into the endless deep and hopefully fascinating lore of One Piece with
I'm already subscribed. Don't even ask me to.
I'd love for you to consider subscribing to my channel. Now, there are a couple of really big arguments that seem to bury the croco-mom idea fairly quickly.
Okay.
Which I know well because I used the very same argument quite a lot back in the day. First, if Crocodile was actually Luffy's mom, why didn't he recognize him? Well, because he hadn't seen Luffy since he was a baby. Okay, but then why didn't Crocodile recognize his last name if he had a kid with Dragon?
Wasn't like their last name.
Well, for the same reason no one else knew that Luffy was related to Dragon or that Garp was related to Dragon.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking.
Dragon simply never shared his last name until it was revealed publicly during the war.
Yes.
I mean, look, even Ivankov didn't recognize Luffy's last name. Now, if Luffy were actually Crocodile's child, wouldn't they have some similarities? Well, they do. Both of them have the undying loyalty of their crews, with Dustbone.
Undying loyalty of their crews. I mean, that ties in literally everyone we've seen so far. This is a huge stretch, I think. I mean, look at Roger's crew, right? Look at Rayleigh. Okay, look at Whitebeard's crew. All of them have undying loyalty. Like, many of them. Especially, like, with Whitebeard, right? I don't know. Her relevance will only be in the Dragon flashback of it all. Basically, yeah. And even then, I don't really see the point in introducing her at this point. I feel like it should just be a cliff note that she exists, and that's it, right? Because, again, like, she was never present. If we find out that she was never present for a reason, or something like that, then sure, maybe we can expand on that point. But again, at this point, I just don't see how it would be relevant. What do you think about the theory that Ace's mother had the Nola fruit? What the hell is the fruit? I don't know what that fruit is.
Still following Crocodile even after Impel Down. The Zoro to Baroque works Luffy. In a way,
I think this
Crocodile,
is a stretch.
just like Moria, had his dreams crushed at some point by Whitebeard, basically giving us a version of Luffy that had given up on his dreams. Which is then accentuated by how he constantly lectures Luffy during their first two encounters, basically like a parent. Plus, we have this mafia.
Hold on. What?
How he Zoro to Baroque works Luffy. In a way, Crocodile, just like Moria, had his dreams crushed at some point by Whitebeard, basically giving us a version of Luffy that had given up on his dreams. Which is then accentuated by how he constantly lectures Luffy during their first two encounters, basically like a parent. Plus,
I think he lectured him like a baddie, right? That's like exactly the same thing that Kaido did. Kaido also lectured Luffy, and he lectured him about, like, number 1, awakenings, number 2, coming here laughing, and that, you know, like, you could never be Joy Boy and all that. I feel like there was a lot of lecturing for Luffy, and not because of that. I'm still not convinced. Oh, the Nika fruit. I don't know. Is there some evidence to that? I don't know. I just think that she's going to be as relevant as Ace's mother, a short, sweet, and strong role, something along those lines. Yeah, because, like, in my mind, Luffy has two mothers, right? He has the Don, who is, like, the one that looked after him essentially his entire childhood, and then, I forget her name. The bar lady, right? I forget her name all the time because she doesn't really appear a lot. But, like, I don't really care about their biological links, if that makes sense. I feel like the very core of One Piece is about, like, found family and finding these family links that are not biological, right? I mean, it's the same thing with that we learned with Luffy and Ace, right? They were never really brothers. They were brothers just because they sort of grew together as brothers. So, I don't know.
Special here where Luffy literally looks like Crocodile. And there's also this great comic of Luffy turning into Crocodile, though admittedly I don't think that's canon. I think that's just fan art.
Yeah, I think that's just fan art.
That Crocodile did not know that Luffy was Dragon's child, and so he has an excuse for impaling and mortally wounding his potential kid. But that doesn't prove anything yet.
Yes.
No, because for that we actually have to look at Marineford, and specifically Crocodile's action during Marineford after it was revealed that Luffy was Dragon's son. Because interestingly enough, after his initial attempt to attack Whitebeard, he then actually did a few things that seemed extremely out of character because he went out of his way and endangered himself without really needing to for Luffy's sake. And also keep in mind that we never got to actually see his reaction to the Luffy Dragon reveal, just as we got no reaction of his to Roger's execution. So here's all the out-of-character stuff he suddenly started doing.
Let's see.
Number 1, he stopped Ace's execution with the excuse that he didn't want Sengoku to have the pleasure of victory, which
I think this
is a big pile of poop as an argument.
I think this is more so not the fact that he didn't want Sengoku to have, like, power or whatever. I think this was just him realizing that, in this case, this is no longer a fight of who lives and who dies. This is a fight that's going to send a message, right? And if they were to save the son of Roger, right, that's more so a cap in the hat of pirates as a whole, I think. I think, but okay.
Now, some people will tell you it's because Luffy inspired him like Luffy does with many others.
Yeah,
but
that's basically what I mean.
What exactly has Luffy done in Marineford he didn't do in Impel Down, or even back in Alabasta? Nothing. Which...
But I mean, Crocodile did fight with Luffy in Impel Down,
then
right?
would imply that Crocodile would have had an entire change of heart for no apparent reason
I think
whatsoever.
I think Crocodile is
hence
just an
completely
opportunistic
off screen,
character.
which is not very Oda-like, if I dare say so. Then he and Does Bones hold off Mihawk to protect Luffy.
We'll talk about this more in a
Just so you
second.
understand, suddenly Crocodile orders his only remaining loyal man to protect the life of the person that ruined his life and his plans and put him in prison. I mean, yeah, he might refrain from killing Luffy because of Ivankov being there, but he surely wouldn't have gone out of his way to send his best man off for him. And then when Crocodile jumps in himself, when Mihawk questions why he protected Luffy, Crocodile's only response is this. Again, why should he suddenly be in a bad mood? Well, maybe because he just found out he once stabbed his own child in the gut and left him to die. But if those weren't weird enough yet, he does the unthinkable.
Okay, let's hear the last thing.
Faces off with Akainu, probably the strongest person in the entire war. Crocodile! And so I think that the fact that as Luffy is lying there unconscious and weak with Jinbei slumped over him, Akainu about to deliver the final blow, Crocodile coming out of nowhere to save him and safely transport him to Law is, once again, so telling. I mean, this is a man that shouldn't have been on Luffy's side for so many reasons.
But he was.
Has left people behind for being useless or too weak. Now seemingly out of nowhere goes full Zoro mode for Luffy, willing to sacrifice himself for him.
We're gonna watch this until the end, then I'm gonna talk about it.
There were plenty of other characters that could have essentially done the same exact thing, but Oda chose to have Crocodile do it. Who then has this epic shot here as well, standing side by side with all of Whitebeard's commanders, his sworn enemies. Just like a protective mother that would sacrifice anything for her child, because Crocodile now knows that Luffy is his son. Mothers in One Piece play an incredibly important role, and there are also a few other possibilities for who Luffy's mom might be. Make sure to check out that video here if you haven't seen it yet, because it's right here. It is.
Alright, good. Now, let me talk about this. Which villain had a better back and forth philosophical discussion with Luffy, Crocodile, or Kaido? I feel like I'm biased. I would say Kaido, but I think that's just recency bias, honestly. And I feel like it just went on for longer with Kaido. So I want to say Kaido, but if I went back and actually rewatched the Crocodile thing, I might be able to give a different answer. But purely my instinctual answer is, I think Kaido. Because Kaido lecturing him about the new world was just like a hammer over the head that you're in an entirely new league, basically, right? Because the fact that he was just casually talking about awakenings and whatnot, something that was basically mythical up to that point, I feel like that was just like a huge deal. But anyway, with Crocodile here, right? So him having a sudden switch and everything like that, in my mind, Crocodile is always been a very intelligent and a conniving character, right? So in this case, like my read on it was always that he essentially realized that, I mean, what is he going to do? If he doesn't help Luffy, he's no longer a warlord, right? At this point, he's lost his status. So he's going to be attacked by the Navy. If he goes against Luffy, he's going to turn everybody on him, right? Including like Whitebeard and everyone else. Or was Whitebeard already dead at this point? Whatever the case. I don't think Whitebeard was dead here. Whatever the case. Basically, my point is that, in my mind, he had no other choice but to side with Luffy. Because, I mean, if he didn't, literally everybody would turn against him. And he wouldn't survive for literally the next 5 minutes. Sure, Mr. One is there, but I'm sorry, Mr. One lost to Zoro, right? And he lost to Luffy. With everybody else around there, he'd be toast in the space of minutes. So in my mind, this entire thing is actually sort of what hints at the whole Cross Guild later on. Because in my mind, by siding with the pirates here, he essentially redeems his reputation as somebody you shouldn't mess with, right? I'm going to stand on the side of pirates, and here I'm going to build up my reputation in the biggest war that ever happened, and I'm going to be on the right side of history in terms of the underground networks, thereby fueling my next organization, right? Whatever his entire next goal is with the Cross Guild, I feel like that's what he's doing here, right? He's sort of redeeming himself for being defeated by Luffy. And now that he's going to stand on the side of pirates, he's going to basically become a Giga Chad once again. And because he's a Giga Chad, he can start recruiting more people, right? Which is exactly what we saw. So I don't know if it's just me leveraging the benefit of hindsight now that we know that he does have the Cross Guild. But whatever the case, in my mind, that makes more sense. Rather than him realizing, that is my son. I don't know. Because, like, even in that case, right? If he never cared enough to seek out his own son, and never cared enough to... Because, I mean, he gave birth to it, right? I mean, this isn't like Dragon just not caring at all, right? So, if he never cared enough to look for it, and then suddenly realized, okay, I impaled my son, I don't really see how that would suddenly flip a switch in his brain. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I am not convinced. I'm not convinced. Lady Crocodile maybe wanted to get the Pluton with it to create a brother. Serious what Dragon wants to do. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Because if he were to be a woman before, that makes total sense for me, right? And that sort of plays into the whole scene with Ivankov, right? I would not be surprised in the least by that. I just don't buy the fact that he's a woman, and he was a woman, and he also is Luffy's mom, right? That's sort of the thing I have the biggest problem with. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'll say that. It's just a random theory. There are millions of them. It's just a fun thing to think about. Yeah, that's the thing. But it's a theory that I feel like is very prevalent based on the amount of comments I alone have gotten about it. But this is a very, very good video. I enjoyed it. It's a fun video. I'm going to link it in chat. I'm guessing literally everybody here has seen it, but this is the video, if somebody wants to watch it. Give a sub to Ohara. Very cool videos. I've seen a few now that I've gotten caught up. But is there anything else I missed here? Yeah, Bon Clay, we talked about that. Because he also brought up earlier, right, that, whatchamacallit, Charlotte Head. Like, he was defeated by Kaido, right? Because I feel like if you tried hard enough, you could link all of these things together. Because, I mean, everything in the world of One Piece is to some extent interconnected, right? This is how I build my theories as well. So, I feel like you could stretch what's there and still achieve the same thing.